President Trump was furious over the weekend after a bombshell report came to light on Saturday, seemingly alleging the FBI had hundreds of plainclothes agents in the crowd during the January 6th Capitol riot. The president posted to Truth Social, quote, "It was just revealed that the FBI had secretly placed, against all rules, regulations, and protocols and standards, 274 FBI agents into the crowd just prior to and during the January 6th hoax. This is different from what Director Christopher Wray stated over and over again." That's right, is it? Now turns out FBI agents were at and in the January 6th protests, probably acting as agitators and insurrectionists, but certainly not as law enforcement officials. I want to know who each and every one of these so-called agents are and what they were up to on that now historic day. Trump ended it with a jab at his former FBI director, quote, Christopher Wray. The then director of the FBI has some major explaining to do. That's two in a row. Comey and Wray got caught lying with our great country at stake.
Now, despite the president's post, the report wasn't exactly clear if the 274 plainclothes agents were in the crowd that breached the Capitol or in other protest crowds. Following that report, FBI Director Kash Patel threw a wrench into the president's narrative, telling Fox News that agents weren't called in prior to the violence, instead saying, while the agents were on hand, they were sent in after the riot had begun to try to control the unruly crowd. Fox also reports Patel told them that it is not the proper role of FBI agents and said Wray was not forthcoming about what happened when he testified numerous times on Capitol Hill. Now, Patel later clarified on social media, quote, 274 FBI agents were thrown into a crowd control on January 6th against FBI standards. That failure was corrupt leadership. That failure was on corrupt leadership. Thanks to agents stepping up, the truth is coming out. Transparency, justice, accountability.
Okay, this is a little bit complicated. I'll be honest, and I don't necessarily believe that the agents were all there sent as crowd control afterward. FBI agents get sent for crowd control? That's the work of garden variety law enforcement, or they should have sent the National Guard. Makes no sense. Maybe it's the case. Maybe they were stupidly sent in for that role. That does seem like a failure. What I think is that the FBI doesn't want to admit that it did have agents embedded in the crowds of the gathered January 6ers. This would not be surprising at all. The protesters were largely consistent of, patriot groups and militia groups and the Proud Boys. Those organizations have FBI agents deeply embedded at them at all levels, at all times. In fact, the leader of the Proud Boys himself was an informant for the FBI. The FBI is very good at infiltrating right-wing organizations and then inducing the people in them to commit crimes so that they can then arrest them.
Oh,
but that's true.
What?
That happens. That absolutely
You're going to make somebody commit a crime. No, if you're a bad person, Robbie, I'm sorry to tell you, this is simple. My mom told me this when I was young. You're just a bad person. Nobody can induce me to commit a crime, no matter what organization. Nobody can pay me enough to commit a crime, is what I'm saying.
Okay,
there's not a world that I'll say yes to that. So if you're a bad person, you do a bad crime. If you're a good person, you won't do it.
For instance, in the Gretchen Whitmer fake kidnapping, the FBI paid participants in that scheme to continue organizing it, to induce the other people involved in it, to try to buy weapons to do it, so that then when they go to charge them, they have evidence. They can say, here's where you tried to purchase weapons. They never would have gotten to that level unless the FBI had been instructing them to keep going. They do this, by the way, from a more lefty sympathetic standpoint. They also do this to young Arab American men. They reach out to them in chat rooms and say, would you like to do terrorism against the United States, and they induce them to agree to do it so that they can arrest them. So it's not just right-wing people who are the victims of this scheme. It's also left-wing people, would-be Islamic extremist people.
So just, again, there's no hard evidence here. This is just Trump and his team trying to distance themselves from January 6th and the fact that they pardoned people that actually hurt people on our Capitol, hurt police officers, everything that the Republican Party is against.
I'm sorry, going off the radar, I was talking about, they're just freedom fighters who had this message of freedom and wonder, and I hope Cuba can take it.
So why, they should go to Cuba, because Trump literally is saying that the FBI secretly placed people, show the proof. He just randomly calls out statements, and we're supposed to just believe Kash Patel, who doesn't even know how to say a firm sentence. Well,
if we're not believing Kash Patel was the one saying they were sent there as crowd control. So you don't believe Kash Patel.
I don't believe any of them. I feel like they're uncoordinated. I feel like they're not having a conversation about what the plan is, and hey, we're going to stick to this plan.
Well, that I agree with.
Hakeem Jeffries was on MSNBC and just flat out said what most people are thinking. Donald Trump is lying to the American people in the events of January 6th. He can't justify the fact that he helped to incite a mob of violent individuals who attacked the Capitol as part of an effort to reverse and undermine the results of the 2020 election. That's what he's saying. This is what this is all about.
Well, the agents were there. I mean, the question is, were they there, as I suspect? Maybe they could have been in multiple roles, and some of them were there, again, embedded in the crowd. And then the question becomes, were they instigating people? Because it is easier, again, to arrest people once the FBI has instigated them to commit some crime. Or were they there as a response, as crowd control, which is baffling to me, but maybe the case. That's what Kash Patel is saying he was told. But I don't necessarily trust him to do a good enough job here to well, that's what they're telling you to cover themselves. Can you actually get to the bottom of that? You're right that they're not on the same page about it. Trump, Patel, Wray.
And we just can't rewrite history. And we also just can't, we know that Trump surrounds himself with loyalists. So the fact that if somebody doesn't fall in line with his message is, then that becomes problematic. And we already know that Kash Patel, according to the latest hearing that he had on Capitol Hill, seems like he might be considering that he's losing his job soon, so he might just switch by tomorrow. We might see him saying something different. So that's concerning to me to figure out what actually happened. I'm not going to believe Kash Patel or President Trump when it comes to
Well, if he wanted to protect his job, though, he would have said, Trump's right. We got to get to the bottom of why these agents were embedded. And what he said was, no, that's not what they were doing. So I don't know. I don't know who's right. I can't tell. But it is very interesting. It's more complicated than we were led to believe. Because I think, wasn't it Wray who had said, yeah, there were no agents there? Well, that's not true. There were agents there.
But also, Trump appointed and nominated Wray into his position. So now he's attacking Comey, attacking
Pence, and we're over that.
And Pence was also one of the people that they were going after the most on January 6th, fearing for his life.
Yeah, he picked people who didn't do what he wanted, and he regrets it. What's the gotcha?
I mean, he put people in positions now just to criticize them because they weren't extremely loyal. Pence was more loyal to our country and to his constitutional oath rather than the president, and he didn't understand that. It didn't click in his mind that that's an appropriate thing to do as a government official. Not be loyal to Trump, be loyal to the Constitution, to the oath of office that you've taken. That's important. So the fact that he wants to dismiss everybody that cares more about their actual position than him is kind of wild. You should probably be uncomfortable with that.
I'm very curious about this. I would like to know a lot more about when the agents arrived, what was the thinking of that.
What will that change, though? Violent people attack the Capitol and hurt and kill people.
Well, if they were
going after our Congress leaders.
Do you know who Ray Epps is? You're probably unfamiliar with this.
No, I don't. Tell me.
So there was a guy the day before. He was a participant in the events, but the day before.
Oh, I think
he's on camera saying, what we're going to do tomorrow? We're not going to stop. We're going to go into the We're going to go in. And the people around him go, no, we're not breaking any laws, no. And then the question is, are there figures like him who are inciting the crowd to actually take unlawful actions? Now, what I witnessed when I was there was that it seemed like a spontaneous riot breaking out. I mean, I've seen crowds turn, and it seemed to me like that was the behavior.
You were on the Capitol?
Yeah. I lived right. When I found out there was going to be. I was a journalist, not as a supporter of the president. I went to
cover it. Okay, got it. Understood.
So I watched it happen. It was horrifying. I got pepper sprayed in the face. You couldn't there's a cloud of it coming my way. I was like, how bad can this be?
So even if the people, let's say, were induced, in your words, by agents, does it still absolve them of the crime? You feel like, the pepper spray.
I'm not saying it absolves them of the crime. I'm just saying I wish our law enforcement would spend less time trying to trick people into committing crimes so that they can pad their conviction rates. You know what I mean?
Okay, we can agree on that.
I'm not saying it gets them out of their responsibility. It's like, wouldn't it be great if we had a government that was going around trying to convict people? I mean, this goes to the conversation we're having about Comey's behavior and Trump's behavior and everyone, is that it is very easy. People don't understand unless they've paid very close, granular attention to the criminal justice system, as I have in my capacity as a reporter, as a libertarian reporter who writes for a magazine that focuses on civil liberties, the power of the criminal justice system, the law enforcement system, to get you is really, because people naively say, well, if you did nothing wrong, you're fine. You've done things wrong you can't even conceive of. So that's just the general lesson.
This is like a whole nother conversation. I know we don't have time, but yeah. I like where you're going with this. I think we might agree.
I got a traffic ticket the other day, speeding ticket. No idea. I was going 36 in an area of the city.
You would use the most
where
calm
the
numbers,
scene-
36.
No, it was 11 over. It was the bare minimum they'll ever charge you for anything. In a 25, I guess, because for this one block of the street, it switches from 35 to 25. And did I know I was committing a crime? No, of course not.
But you were.
But I was.
And good thing you weren't induced to do it. It just was your choice to go too fast.
It was. I guess it was my choice.
So coming up, the United Kingdom is rolling out a mandatory digital ID system for all of its workers. Why the plan is facing opposition from politicians and the left and the right. Stay with us.